Hello and welcome to Amrita by the Book. My name is Amrita and this is my booktube, and today I'm really excited to do Dear Abby but for books. Now this is an idea that a dear friend of mine had, and I was going to mention her by name, and then I realized, well, that kind of defeats the purpose. So without further ado, let me just launch into a letter that she sent me. Dear Amrita by the Book. That's me. When I was young, I was a big reader. But lately, I barely manage a paragraph in the New Yorker at bedtime before I pass out. My bookshelf is crowded with quote-unquote serious literature that goes unread. When I do happen across a real page-turner, I tear through it happy as can be. However, I'm snobby enough that I don't enjoy bestsellers if the writing is poor, like say, the Twilight series or Dan Brown's books. I would really like something good to curl up with while COVID winter rages here in the US. Do you have any recommendations for well-written novels that are hard to put down? Sincerely, Used to Be Smart. Well, Used to Be Smart, I feel like your problems are basically a lot of people's problems right now. People really need to get off the computer and the internet for their own mental health, and once they do, what are they going to do? Read a book? Now, I have gone on record in the past to say that I feel like the best popular literature novels that were written in the mid-20th century. I think they strike an excellent balance between readability and, can we say, like literary sense. The prose is clear and beautiful and evocative, and I love it. But I wanted to also mix things up for this particular reader and give some of my favorites, but also some of the books that I have discovered in the recent past. Something to take her mind off more serious things, but also books that are easy to find and will help you pass time this COVID winter, as you put it. So Used to Be Smart, this is my list for you. My first recommendation is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I have spoken about this book over and over and over and over again, and I will continue to do so until everybody that watches my channel has read it or listened to it on audiobook. It is funny, it is poignant, it has a murder, it's literally, everything that you want in a book. And it's even better as an audiobook, as I've said before. You can just speed it up a tiny bit. I listened to it at 125, and I thought that was a perfect speed. For those of you who might have missed my 1 million other videos talking about it, it is the story of 4 people who live in a luxury retirement village and are interested in solving cold cases or just murder in general. And then all these murders start happening at their doorstep, and all of a sudden, these 4 old people have a new purpose in life. It's great. Funny and unexpectedly poignant, and very British cozy murder mystery vibes, which is one of my favorite things. My next recommendation for you, Used to Be Smart, is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Now, this book was everywhere on BookTube and I think also Bookstagram maybe 6 months ago or so, and everybody was talking about, oh my god, this is the perfect read for the summer. And then I read it, and I have no idea why everybody was just lying out of their mouths, because the way this was sold to me was as if it were absolute fluff. And I have nothing against fluff. That's mainly the reason why I got this book in the first place, because I love fluff and I wanted fluff. And this book is not really fluff. It is instead about 2 people who are going through some really heavy things. It's about this woman who writes romances for a living and a man who writes much darker literature, shall we say. And the 2 of them knew each other in college, and they were, she thinks of him as her nemesis. And then it turns out that the 2 of them have a lot more in common, and also she always found him attractive. And there's a lot of banter, and both of them are going through a period of writer's block, and so they decide to switch genres. and see if he can write happy ending for his characters instead of having everyone die as he usually does, and if she can write something more serious and less fluffy. I think this book is perfect for people who like their romances to be more on the side of general fiction. So there is a strong romance element, but there are a bunch of other things going on as well. And I think as such, it is a really great read. Like, I really enjoyed it, and it's really well written. My next recommendation is one of my all-time favorites. It's called This Rough Magic by Mary Stewart. And this is one of those mid-20th century novels that I keep talking about. And it's about this young woman who goes on a holiday to the island of Corfu, which is, some people think that it might be the setting for Shakespeare's The Tempest. And the way Stewart uses that theory and then The Tempest itself and weaves it into the narrative through not just the main lead, who is an actress in London, but also through other characters in the book, such as her neighbor in Corfu is a really famous actor in London, like an older actor who is famous for his Shakespearean portrayals and who is obsessed with The Tempest, and that's why he's there. And then she has this budding relationship with his son, who's a musician, and quite yummy the way, all of Mary Stewart's men are. As well as this other man whom she also meets on the island. And then there's a dolphin. I mean, the book has a dolphin who wants to be her friend. Come on. It's great. Plus there's murder and, all kinds of things happening as well. Stewart is one of my all-time favorites, not just for her plotting abilities, but also for her prose, which is perhaps some of the best that I've ever read in popular literature. The way she can paint scenes and the way that she can transport a reader to a setting without it ever being too much or too overwrought. It's a study in restraint, but also in painting with all the colors. She's great. I love her, and I recommend her work to everybody. My next recommendation is The Night Circus by Erin Morganstern, which is a perennial favorite over here on BookTube, and for good reason, in my opinion. It has its unevenness from time to time, but it's a debut novel, so you can expect that. But I think in terms of imagination and in terms of the relationship that it sets up, it is a really interesting exercise. It's about this mysterious circus that just shows up out of nowhere. And it's a circus that only takes place at night, and the secret is that it's magic. And at the circus, there are these two young magicians, a woman and a man, and they are battling for supremacy, and they don't really know that they're actually pawns for these other beings or these other magicians, and that the result of their battle, so to speak, is going to decide something profound for the circus. And then they need to find a way out of this whole mess when they realize that they're deeply in love with each other. So there's a doomed romance, there are fantastical elements, there's a magic circus. I mean, it's pretty great. And my last recommendation for you, Used to Be Smart, is a series, and it's called the Amelia Peabody series. And if you haven't read it yet, it is one of the funniest, one of the best adventure story series that I've ever read in my life. I'm going to read the blurb for the first book in the series because it is so great. The first book is called Crocodile on the Sandbank, and the name of the author is Elizabeth Peters. And it says, Amelia Peabody inherited two things from her father: a considerable fortune and an unbendable will. The first allowed her to indulge in her life's passion. Without the second, the mummy's curse would have made corpses of them all. How do you not want to read something that has a blurb like that? That's just art. So as you can tell from the blurb, Amelia Peabody is a very headstrong heiress, and the moment she is financially independent, she packs up her stuff and heads off to Egypt to conduct archaeological excavations the way one does. Unfortunately, this also leads to people trying to take advantage of her, to hoodwink her, and then to murder her. So it's about Amelia Peabody finding her way, meeting a tall, dark, handsome, mysterious stranger who drives her insane, battling the odds, and prevailing over all. It's a pretty long series too, so it's not likely that you'll run out of material before the end of the year unless you're an extremely fast reader. I mean, I binged the series when I first got it, but I have since reread them at a much slower pace, and I do recommend the slower pace. So these were my recommendations for you. Used to be smart. I hope you try one or all of them. I hope you found something of interest in the lot, and if you do, let me know. And for the rest of you, if there is anyone else out there who has been looking for a Dear Abby for books, then that's me. It's Amrita by the book. Send me your letters. I just might have something for you. For more videos, please hit the subscribe button.